Hello, Lyceans! I am Teacher Lai and I will be telling you a story about how our school Liceo de Cagayan University started. Are you ready? Liceo de Cagayan opened its doors in 1955. It had been almost a decade in the making from the early 1946 courtship days of Reding and Elsa Pelaez when, for the first time, Elsa broached the idea of putting up a school in Cagayan to that proud day in June 1955 when they finally saw their dream come true. It started as a kind of whim, one of Elsa's caprichos that Don Vicente once warned Reding about. Elsa, her adoring father said, was fond of asking favors, some big, some small, from men who loved her. But in all fairness, before Reding, her father was the only man whom Elsa had in the palm of her hand. After college, quite content with a single life in Cebu, doing what she loved to do best, teaching, and earning good money at that, Elsa would one day run into Reding, a rich widower who quickly fell in love with her, and it turned out she with him. He wanted to marry her and take her home to Cagayan de Oro, where a privileged and comfortable life awaited her as Mrs. Rodolfo Pelaez. But Elsa was not looking for a rich husband who would give her a life of leisure and material plenty. She was an educated girl of the 30s who wanted a career of her own and to have a high purpose in life. "How about putting up a school for me?" she asked. She may have been facetious, expecting Reding, an ardent suitor, to say yes, so that he could score points with a girl whom he found challenging and was fast falling in love with. But the idea stuck. It was said, and in subsequent talks, the state of education in the country came up, the utter lack of facilities, the fact that students from the provinces like themselves have had to go to Manila at much expense and effort to get a higher education. What about the poor who couldn't afford the expense or luxury of time? College education in those quiet days was only for the elite, the best and the brightest, the valedictorians and honor students. From Reding and Elsa's discussions came the germ of an idea. Why not, indeed, a college for the masses and the common people? If they were to live in Cagayan, would not it be a part of their duty to establish such a school there? Wasn't there a crying need for one or even two of such schools? Officially founded on February 4, 1955, Liceo opened for the 1955 to 56 academic year in June. From the very start, Reding and Elsa made it a point to stress that their school was different from both Ateneo and the government institutions. The school is non-sectarian, they kept restating in Liceo flyers and publications. Yet, she believes that a man's relation to God is decisive for his life success and happiness. In fact, they also advise Liceo students to attend daily mass and prayers and not to limit religious duty to Sundays or days of obligation. As the joint founders of Liceo de Cagayan, the Pelaezes had regarded the school as a family matter of great importance and, some say, practically on the same level as raising their two children, Dodong and Ochi. In 1980, after Reding's death and upon Ochi's initiative, Liceo opened its own grade school and high school departments, belatedly enabling it to become a full-fledged university offering the complete 3 levels of education by the end of the 20th century. Reding was a rich man who was never in the company of rich men. He never joined the Rotary, the Jaycees, or the Knights of Columbus. He was totally dedicated to Liceo, and he was very strict with the students and the teachers. He wanted the students to get something from the teachers. Reding did not care about profits. He had this thing about education being affordable for the poor, and he stuck to that idea to the very end. The Garland Street campus, where the original 2-story wooden structure fronting Gaston Park and the cathedral, was congested, and operations were spilling out to more and more buildings in the vicinity. With no real campus, no grounds to move around, students were often out in the streets and in the nearby park, creating a bit of public nuisance. Building a campus in Carmen seemed ideal. There was all the land for as many buildings and as large as Ruding would want them to be. But Carmen, some 2 kilometers from the oblation or city center across the Cagayan River, was just out of the way, beyond the established public transportation lines. Ruding's simple solution was to provide for free transportation to and from the campus. He bought 3 surplus Bedford buses from the JD Bus Company in Manila and introduced a non-stop shuttle service from under a huge acacia tree at the approach to the Carmen Bridge. Liceo had to provide this service because there was no public transportation, no jeepneys or tartanillas to and from Carmen. A 1967 study on urban development sponsored by the National Economic Council and the U.S. Agency for International Development found Liceo as the biggest of 5 private collegiate schools in Cagayan de Oro, with about 40% of the 5,436 students enrolled there. Liceo had 2,400, Xavier 2,085, Lourdes 570, Pilgrim Institute 121, and Technical Institute 260. In more ways than one, Liceo was the spark plug to the opening up of Carmen as a prosperous suburb of Cagayan de Oro. Today, responding to the challenges of the 21st century and guided by the core values of excellence, integrity, loyalty, discipline, and service, Liceo de Cagayan University, as a leading Filipino university, commits herself to deliver world-standard programs for various professions through quality instruction, research, and service learning for global integration in order to achieve fully its primary vision of extending relevant and quality education to the youth, especially those poor but deserving students in northern Mindanao, and facilitating their total human formation to become responsible global leaders for God, country, and humanity. That's the history of Liceo.